My name is Katherine, and in this video I'm bringing you my June wrap-up. So, it is the end of June already, it's July, and a lot has been going on this month, both in the world as well as in my personal life. So I have to admit, I don't have like as much memories of the books that I read earlier in June, but we'll just see how it goes. I hope you can hear me alright because it is raining, but it's going to be a rainy day. So at the end of the video, I might give a little timestamps will be in the description down below for when I talk about which. So the first book I finished in June, actually on June 1st, because I started reading this book in May, is called No Big Deal by Bethany Rutter. This is a young adult contemporary fiction book about a fat white girl, and she is okay with her size, but some of the people around her aren't. Here is the synopsis if you wanted to read it. So Emily is the main character. Her mom is kind of wanting her to diet, and she meets an interesting boy. I really liked this book. It had a lot of like good, positive messages, and in some books, particularly older books, there is sometimes fat phobia. This book, written by a fat author herself, at least I think it's on Voices as far as I'm aware, you know, goes against that, and yeah, just I really liked this book. I think it was definitely one of my favorite books of the month, but since I read it like so long ago, I don't quite remember all the details. There's quite a bit of like music talk in here because the main character likes music, and yeah, I really like this. But to be honest, my mind hasn't really been on like YouTube and videos and stuff because of my move that I'll talk about at the end of this video. So I've mainly just been reading like when I was tired and couldn't do any packing and stuff, so I'm reading for relaxation. So yeah, I might not have been in the best like frame of mind to remember a lot, if that makes sense. But then there were a few days where I read lots of graphic novels and such, as I do every month. So we're gonna get into those now. The first one that I read is Karen's Witch, first book in the Babysitter's Little Sister series of the graphic novels, based on a novel by Anna Martin, and the graphic novel is done by Katy Farina. The coloring is done by Braden. I really enjoyed the Babysitter's Club graphic novels. I've read all of them, at least that are out at this point. I don't know if there's going to be more or not. This was also an enjoyable, nostalgic read. I have read the original book of this, book 1 in the Little Sister series, but I haven't read any more than that in this series. So my sister had the first book in this series, the novel that this graphic novel is based on. So I read that one, but I haven't read any more in the series. At the time, I felt like I really liked the Babysitter's Club normal novels. That was my age range, so the Little Sister books felt a bit like younger than me, and my sister only ever had the first book. I also don't know even how many were translated into Dutch, but anyway, this was a nice nostalgic read. I'll show you some of the art. One thing that bothered me, bothered me is a big word, but let me see if I can find an example. So the art is done in a little bit of a, like, what they call in Japan, chibi style, in that the heads of the characters are a bit bigger than they are normally, if that makes sense. And this is something that I'm usually not a huge fan of, but I enjoyed reading this graphic novel. Then I read Almost American Girl by Robin Ha. This is a graphic memoir, and it is about Robin, a teenage girl in Korea, and at some point her mother makes them move to the United States, and so this is the author's memoir of like how she experienced that and struggles with the language and the culture and racism. And I really liked this graphic memoir. Sorry, I don't have a lot to say today on some of these books, but this was a great read, and I'll maybe reread it at some point in the future. Then I read It's All Absolutely Fine by Ruby Elliott. It says here on the back that the author is the illustrator behind the successful Tumblr account Ruby etc., which I had not heard of until somebody told me about this book. I'm not sure, I can't remember who it was, maybe somebody on YouTube, somebody on Instagram, I can't remember. I really don't remember of all these books, like who tells me about them, where I learn about them and stuff. Anyway, so these are all sort of illustrations. There are also some pages with text, like here, for example. Here is the back, which is already hilarious. This book, in my opinion, was quite funny, and I really liked it. It reminded me of Ellie Brosh's book Hyperbole and a Half, which is another memoir with lots of illustrations that I really like. And so it reminded me a bit of that in some places. I really like this. There is like mental health representation in here. The book touches on depression and a lot of other things. I can't quite remember it all now, to be honest. But yeah, I love this. Yeah, I had a lot of pretty good reads this month actually in June that I really enjoyed. So that's nice. Then I read Stargazing by Wang, a graphic novel. I have read some other graphic works by Wang. Here is a synopsis. This book is about Christine and Moon. Christine lives in this Chinese American community in the United States, and Moon family moves in near Christine's, and if I remember it correctly, Christine's mother wants her to try to make friends with Moon, but other kids are spreading rumors about Moon, and yeah, I don't want to give too much away. It's a novel about friendship and other things, and I really like this. Again, it was a nice read. Yeah. So the other books I've read by Wang. Oh, so it's The Prince and the Dressmaker, which I loved. This was. And then we have In Real Life, A Cory Doctor on Wang, a book which I also really liked. This was also a nice read. Though I didn't like it as much as The Prince and the Dressmaker, but yeah, I enjoyed this. And then another graphic novel. This is Pumpkinheads by Rowell and Erin Hicks. I bought this book because lots of people on BookTube were talking about it. Here is the synopsis on the back. And this is a book about two friends. That's what two people on the cover. They are Josiah, who is a white skinny boy, and Deja, who is a black fat teenage girl. And every autumn these two friends work at a pumpkin patch, and this, when the story takes place, is their last year working there together, because after that they'll graduate high school and go their separate ways. They only see each other during the autumn when they work here. And yeah, this book is quite autumny. It is, I think, based in the United States, so a lot of these things that are in the pumpkin patch, see here is a map, are things that we don't have in the Netherlands, because we don't celebrate Halloween as much. We do have pumpkins, but not like glazed apples and, well, I can't remember exactly all the stuff they have here, but some of the stuff is not stuff that we have here, if that makes sense, at least to my knowledge and what I've grown up with. But yeah, it was a nice autumny feeling. I also like that the sort of the color scheme in the book. Yeah, this was again a nice read. In my opinion, I wouldn't call it a must-have book, but I enjoyed it. So yeah. Then I read Click by Kayla Miller with additional coloring by Katherine Efird. This is book 1, and then we have Camp by Kayla Miller, which is book 2. Camp has additional coloring by Miguel. So Click is about Olive and her year, 5th grade. I think it takes place in the United States. So the whole fifth grade year is doing kind of this show on stage for the rest of school sort of thing. And Olive is struggling, like what is she going to do and which group of friends to join, because she is friends with a lot of people, but she doesn't have a best friend, if that makes sense. So yeah, this book is about friendship and like performance arts and performing arts. And yeah, I thought it was a nice read. Then we get to camp, which is about Olive again, and she is going to this summer camp together with a friend. And this book is again about friendship. Olive is really enjoying her time at camp, but her friend isn't. Yeah, I didn't like this one as much as Click, but it was still an alright read. The next two graphic novels I read were by the same authors and in the same series. The first one is Sunny Side Up by Jennifer L. Holm and Matthew Holm, with color by Lark. And then the second book is Swing It Sunny, again by Jennifer L. Holm and Matthew Holm, again with color by Lark. I got these two in a box set. You can see what that looks like. That there is a third book in this series, so I will be reading it at some point, hopefully. So yeah, book two kind of continues some of the story in book one, so I'm just going to talk about book one. And this book is about Sunny, and she has to spend the summer with her grandfather, who lives in a retirement home. But why she has to do this, because that isn't quite clear to her. But well, you have to read the book to find out. So I don't want to spoil stuff. There are some like heavier themes in here as well. And I enjoyed this book. I also enjoyed Swing It Sunny, which is the second book. So the synopsis of that would be a bit of a spoiler. This book takes place after the summer. Sunny is going to a new year in school, and yeah. Anyway, these two books were, yeah, I enjoyed reading them. And I like the art style. Then we get to the last few books that I read for this like reading weekend that I read all these graphic works for. And we're going to some really short books. This is Plants vs. Zombies, Save Your Brains. I can read too. This book is written by Katherine and Hapka. But yeah, I am a fan of the game Plants vs. Zombies, the original game. I know there have since been like different versions of it. I like the original game, with the tower defense, and not like the shooty online ones. But anyway, that's why I bought this book, because I'm a fan of the game. And, it is quite short, and it is more meant for like kids who are just learning to read. Well, I didn't know a lot about it before I ordered it online. So, but I like the illustrations, but you know, the story is nothing that different from the game. But yeah, it was nice to see all the pictures, and yeah. Then we get to Cruella and Catpig by Peter Bendy and Stephen Lenton. This is based on the 101 Dalmatians. This is a book for World Book Day. Generally, these books are only available for me as opposed to Netherlands, but online during World Book Day, and after that they soon get sold out. So it's like I either have to get them there and then or not, because second-hand book delivery from outside Netherlands is not always that reliable. I'm still waiting for a book I ordered last August. Before that it took like 4 or 6 months for my book to turn up, so I'm not usually doing that. But anyway, so this is a cute little sort of miniature picture book about a Dalmatian and Cruella. Yeah. Oh, obviously I'm not the target audience, but it was nice. Then we get to Claude Best in Show by Alex T. Smith. There are other bigger books about Claude, but again, this is a World Book Day book. Yeah, it is just a short read about Claude, who wants to participate in this dog show. Yeah, again, yeah, a nice read. Yeah, I haven't got a lot to say about these little books, because I'm not the target audience, and you know, they're enjoyable, but will I reread them? I don't know. Anyway, 10 Little Bookworms by Mike Brownlow and Simon Rickerty, also a World Book Day book, and well, seeing as it's about bookworms, I couldn't resist. It's again quite a short little small book. I believe there are more with like 10 little somethings, but this one involves books, so that was nice. But yeah, it is written for like young children to learn to count, so that's not me, but I enjoyed the illustrations, and it's nice for young kids, I think. Then I read Inside Out and Back Again by Thongha Lai. This book was recommended to me by a couple of friends on BookTube, and it's an older book. I think it was from 2011. The book is about a girl called Ha, and she lives in Vietnam, but she and her family are forced to flee when the war gets too close to their home. This book is written in verse, and while I'm not the biggest fan generally of books written in verse, here's the first page. I really liked this book. This book was really good. The format of it being in verse seemed to really fit with the thinking world of a young girl. This book is based on the author's own experiences when she had to move from Vietnam to the United States. So yeah, the family, they traveled to the United States. So this is based on the author's own experiences when she was a girl, when she was a little girl and a young girl, and really, yeah, this was excellent. Racism is a theme here, and it was just really interesting how the main character experienced the boat journey and you know, everything that happened. And yeah, this was really good. I think it's definitely one to reread in the future. Now we get kind of the books that I read like later in June that are longer. So the next book I finished was The Abyss Beyond Dreams by Peter F. Hamilton. This is book 1 of the Chronicle of the Fowls duology. I actually started reading this book in May, and I finished it I think on the 19th of June, so it took me a while. It's a big book. So this duology should be read after the 2 Commonwealth books and the Void trilogy. So the Commonwealth saga, that is Pandora's Star and Judas Unchained, and then you have the Void trilogy, which is the Dreaming Void, the Temporal Void, and the Evolutionary Void. And after that comes this duology with The Abyss Beyond Dreams, and I think it's called Night Without Stars. So this duology takes place around the same time as the Void trilogy, but you should read that first. If you don't, this book will be confusing and also will spoil part of that trilogy. Now, I quite like this book, but, and I will talk about the good points in a minute, Peter F. Hamilton, at least, so this book is first published in 2014, and also in his older books from like the 1980s and 1990s, he uses the white is default trope in, so when he talks about characters in the story, he only really describes their skin color when they are characters of color, mostly. For a lot of the characters, when it isn't mentioned, they are generally white. So like sometimes some of his main characters, he won't mention their skin color if they're white, and that will then later in the story say their pale skin or whatever. So back in the 1980s and 1990s, I found this more acceptable, but this book is from 2014, and it bothered me in here because this is a newer book, and also of course with the whole situation in the world right now, I really hope that this author is going to do better in the future. Maybe he has, I don't know, this book is from 2014, but yeah, you know, just if you're gonna describe the skin color of characters, then just do it for all of them, you know, or at least for like all of the main ones. Whereas in here, for example, the main character's skin color is not mentioned for a while, and then they meet this side character who is dark skinned, and then their skin color is mentioned, whereas this side character is not that important in the whole book. Do you get what I mean? So that was something that bothered me. It has always bothered me, but like I said, in the 1980s and 1990s, this was a bit more acceptable. More authors did it at the time, and well, I want him to do better. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, because you know I had to address that, especially with the situation in the world. I did really enjoy this book otherwise, other than what I just talked about. The rest of the book I found enjoyable. Some plot twists especially were really good. At other parts the story moved along a bit slower in my opinion. I mean, I enjoyed it, but so this is epic space opera science fiction kind of, and it's hard science fiction, so it is not for everyone. And I've talked about this author more often on my channel. This book is a bit less of a like space opera because a lot of it takes place on the same planet, if that makes sense. But yeah, I look forward to read book 2 in this trilogy. I do hope to like get to that in like the next while, but I also know I have to be in a specific mood. So yeah, I really like this book, but I do hope the author would do better with that in the future. I don't know a lot about him other than that I read his books. The next book I finished is The Eeuwige Code, Artemis Fowl Book 3, or The Eternity Code in English, by Eoin Colfer. I buddy read this book with Olivia from Olivia's Catastrophe, and that was a lot of fun. I really liked book 3. This book has kind of a heist thing going, and I enjoyed my reading experience with this a lot. For those of you who've seen my May wrap up, in May I read books 1 and 2 in this series, and book 2 was not a very enjoyable reading experience for me because my second-hand copy of the book turned out belonged to a cat owner, and so that book made me very allergic, and that was not fun. So I'm really happy that book 3, which I also got second-hand, but from, you know, it used to belong to a different person. That was a lot better experience for me. That's excellent, and yeah, I really liked this book, and I'll look forward to be reading book 4 soon with Olivia. So Artemis Fowl is about this 12-year-old criminal mastermind genius, and it also involves elves, and yeah. The next book I read is Some Places More Than Others by Renee Watson. This book came recommended to me by Olivia from Olivia's Catastrophe, as well as I think a couple of people who mentioned it before she did, but when she mentioned it in the video recently, I picked it up from my shelves and started to read it. So this book is about a girl named Amara. She lives in Oregon. This is a middle grade contemporary fiction, and she doesn't know much about her father's side of the family. They live in New York City, and so she really wants to go and visit them to find out more about her roots and her ancestors. I also really like this cover. And yeah, this was another favorite of the month, as have been more books. I haven't mentioned it with all of them, but yeah, this was really, really good. I loved it. Yeah, and yeah, we need more middle grade books with black main characters and written by black authors. So yeah, this was really good. I also enjoyed reading about sort of all these landmarks in New York City, and I mean, I've never been there, but yeah, it was great. Then the next book I read is If It Makes You Happy by Claire Kahn. I have read the author's debut novel, which is Let's Talk About Love, which I really like. So I picked up the second book by the author, which is this one. This book is about a teenage girl named Winnie. She is black and fat, and her grandmother owns a diner, and it's got a 1950s theme, and during her summers Winnie works there. So it's about family and food, and it also has polyamorous representation. So this is Let's Talk About Love, which is the author's debut novel. They're not, the two books have no connection. But this book has a sexual representation, which is the reason I picked that one up. And yeah, I really liked all the talk about food in this, and you know, things to do with the family, the fat representation, the queer representation, black representation. Can you put it like that? Well, the book is not, it's not action-packed or anything. It's more, I would say, character-driven. But I really liked it, so it was an enjoyable read. Then I felt like reading something Dutch and a bit easy. So this is the ADHD Survival Kits by John F. Taylor. This is a American book, I think, translated into Dutch. And it has illustrations. And it has tips for children with ADHD as to how to, do better in school and things with the family. And now I bought this at a library sale, not because I thought I would like get a huge amount of new tips, because I am not a kid anymore. I don't go to school anymore. I graduated, so I'm not the target audience for this. But I do like reading books about ADHD because I have what's known as ADD, so I'm not hyperactive, but I do have the concentration problems. And so, for the price of the books at the library are usually pretty cheap, so, and it was an enjoyable read. What I was not expecting with this book, that it was actually funny, which that's something I wasn't expecting, and so I like that. I like that it has lots of illustrations as well. And I also liked, so the book sometimes gives little snippets of people that the author has interviewed, children that the author has interviewed, that give their thoughts on specific issues. Another thing I also liked is that some of the characters drawn in this book are, well, it's in grayscale, but by the looks of it they are like kids of color, or black kids even. And with the situation in the world right now, I thought that was I mean, you can already see it on this book, right? Like, that's, and one illustration I particularly like is this one. I don't know, can we see that? Which is this black girl or brown girl in a wheelchair. So I have to give the author or illustrator props for that, because all too often white authors don't always include people of color, so but yeah, so this was a nice read. I think it can definitely be useful for children with ADHD who are going to school, or let's say young teenagers. But I'm no longer going to school. But yeah, this was a nice read, and I like that it was funny. So the next book I read was A Murder in the Caribbean by Robert Thorogood. This is book 4 in the Death in Paradise book series. Death in Paradise is a TV show made by the BBC, and the author is one of the writers on the show, or was one of the writers on the show. I'm not sure if he still is, but I really like that TV show. It's like a murder mystery that takes place on a fictitious island in the Caribbean. And so this was the last book to read in the 4 books that are out in this series. So this is book 4. They're all individual cases. The books feature the characters that were in the first few seasons of the TV show, because some of the characters change throughout the TV show as actors want to do different things. But anyway, as someone who's a big fan of the TV show, I really like this book. The murder, who done it, was interesting, and I liked it. I really liked it, but I don't know if you haven't seen the TV show at all. You probably won't like this book series as much. But obviously you get to know these characters, the main, like, detective and the team. You get to know them through the TV show, or at least the first few seasons of the TV show. So, but yeah, as a fan of the TV show, I really like this murder mystery. And I have now seen everything that is out of the TV show. I don't know what's happening with filming at the moment, given the whole pandemic. I recently finished watching the series 9, which is the last one that was made and came out on DVD, which I bought. So this TV show takes place on a fictitious island in the Caribbean named Saint-Marie, which used to be a British-French colony, I think. So the TV show has white and black characters. Also the side characters of like all the murder case and stuff, black and white. I feel like it could still do a bit better considering the state of the world, considering that racism isn't something that seems to be ever pulled up. But I do like seeing so many black characters in this TV show, and it is also a funny show in my opinion. You know, there's also like detective work, and because it's like a small island, they don't have all the fancy techniques, and if something needs to be done, they often have to ship like the evidence to a neighboring island. So it's more like old-fashioned detectiving, if that makes sense. The second to last book I read in June is Let's Go Swimming on Doomsday by Natalie C. Anderson. This book came recommended by Jessie from Bowties Books. If you're not following them already on YouTube and or Instagram, please do, because they have an amazing channel. And they recommended this book. This is a young adult thriller. Here is a synopsis, but it's quite lengthy. So this book is about Abdi, and his older brother gets kidnapped by Al-Shabaab militants and forced to become a soldier for them. So the book is kind of, so it takes place in like what they call now and then. The main character is from Somalia. Not all of the book takes place there. And here is the beginning. And I read this book pretty quickly, I have to say. It was just really good. I haven't read many books set in the continent of Africa, which is something that I hope to address in the future. Anyway, this was really good. I learned a lot about the culture in Somalia and the situation there. And now this is a fictional book, but it is based on like people the author talked with. She spent over a decade working with non-governmental organizations in the United Nations, mainly in Africa. The chapters were short. I really liked the writing style, and yeah, I really like this book. So I would say A Murder in the Caribbean is not really a thriller, it's more like a detective mystery, whereas Let's Go Swimming on Doomsday is, it's part thriller, but it's also like part, I don't know, just like fiction story. Anyway, this was excellent. And then the last book that I read in June, which is Boy 7 by Mirjam Mous, which is a young adult thriller in Dutch. I looked it up and this book is not available in English. But I hope you don't mind me telling you about it anyway, otherwise see timestamps below, skip to after this book, I don't know. This book is about a teenage boy who finds himself in like in the middle of nowhere kind of thing. He doesn't remember anything, but he does find a backpack with a phone, and on the phone is a voicemail message that says don't call the police, and it's his own voice. That's pretty much all the synopsis on the back says, so that's all I will tell you. This was tense, thriller, suspenseful. This takes place in the United States, so it is a Dutch book by a Dutch author, but you will see that as you read the book. This also has short chapters, quite a few twists, and yeah, I really like this. I have read other books by this author. It's definitely fiction, whereas Let's Go Swimming on Doomsday is actually based on like real world things. Boy 7 is, as far as I know at least, definitely fiction, and yeah, it was a really good read. So that's all the books. I'm going to give a little bit of an update now for those of you who want to hear it. For those of you who don't want to hear it, I hope you enjoyed this video. So I am in the process of moving. I am moving this summer. And when I say this summer, I mean the second half of August is when we're actually moving. So I've been busy doing a lot of packing. I've packed a lot of my books into boxes, and some of them are already at the new house. So the books that I can read until I've moved and sort of stuff out is a bit more limited in that I don't always have access to all of my books, and I might also not be able to find some of them quickly. So we shall see how that goes. I do have my Kindle, so there is that as well. But now that I've made this video, I can pack these books that I just talk about, and they can go to the new house because I'm not likely to reread any of them anytime soon. So because of this upcoming move, and also other things that are going on, I've been busy in my head with packing and also the state of the world and social media, and yeah. Now I realize moving may not sound like a big thing to people, but it is difficult for me, and maybe also for you, I don't know. Also, I have a lot of books, we have a lot of stuff, so packing is not something that I can just do in a weekend or something. Also not because I need a lot of breaks, but when we have moved in and have sorted stuff out and such, I would like to at least make a video showing you how my bookshelves look like, and maybe also make a video of the work in progress up to them. I am making pictures. I'm not filming a whole lot. I don't tend to have my camera with me, but I am making a lot of pictures of the work in progress. So maybe I'll make a video showing you those if I'm comfortable with that. I don't know yet, but at the very least I'll want to make a video of what my setup, what my room with my books looks like. And yeah, so I'm not quite sure how my reading is gonna go in July and August, because for one, I will have limited access to my books, and two, I might be too busy with packing to read as much as I normally do. So and not just with packing, but also decorating and everything, so sorting stuff out, but we'll see. So I mentioned Olivia from Olivia's Catastrophe, and I mentioned Jessie from Bowties Books. If you're not following them already, and you'd like to, please do. They are both wonderful people, and Olivia is my friend and she's really nice. I might be able to film a July wrap up still here, but that will probably be the last wrap up that I'm filming here, because my August wrap up will not be here, and since I'm going to be moving in the second half of August, I don't know if I can film an August wrap up or what's happening with that. I'm sure the move will tire me out and cause sensory overload and such, so I don't know yet how things are going to go. I'm not using Twitter much the past few months. I do try and use Instagram, but mostly to watch other people's stuff. I don't post a whole lot myself, and now with the things going on in the world, I don't feel it's right for me to suddenly start posting lots of stuff. I also may be offline for a while I move and sort out internet and stuff, but we shall see. If you're a friend and we have each other's Instagram or something, then you can message me or comment on the video or something, and if you're worried or something, I don't know. I'm just rambling now. Thank you very much for watching this video. Leave a comment down below if you like, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!